That. Welcome everyone to Animal Bond's Zoom support call. And it's really nice to see people that we know well and also new people like Miranda. Thank you, Miranda, for coming. Yay. So Miranda, too, in the chat if you want, or you can unmute and say hi. I'd love to know like where you're from, if you can share with the group. Hey.
Yeah, I can tell a little bit. I am original from Holland, but I am living on the beautiful island Aruba.
Oh,
Maybe
ooh.
some yeah, it's really warm here. And I just graduated with Let Animals Lead level 1 with Dr. Alice.
Oh, with
Alice,
LSK. Yes. Nice.
yeah,
Wonderful. Oh, I'm so good.
yeah,
And you were also, Miranda, you were at the conference, right? The Let
yes,
Animals. Yes, I knew I recognized you. That's
yes.
right. Well,
That's where it
welcome.
all started. Yeah, and now since I think 8 months, I am volunteering at a sanctuary here to
Oh,
do
wonderful.
writing to the dogs. Yes.
Wonderful. Oh my gosh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining us and
Thank you.
congratulations on becoming a Let Animals Lead practitioner. Yay. We're all very excited for you. And yeah, and this will be a great call for you to join because we're going to talk all about the difference between submission and acceptance. And there are some gray lines there. And we're lucky we have Liza here and Mel. Good morning. Hello. Welcome. And I'm just going to make sure that everyone's muted before we start. So this is a really important topic because a lot of times we think we're getting acceptance, but we might just be getting submission. And here's a really good example of that. And I see Lisa nodding, and I'd love to hear too what you have to say about this too, Lisa, and anyone else who wants to comment. Sometimes, like, let's say you go to offer Reiki to someone in their home, or even in a shelter environment. We'll just use a home because it's a good example. And they put you in a room with their cat or dog, and the cat or dog wants to leave, yet it's not allowed to leave because the door is shut. So they have it confined in this one room. That's not acceptance. That's submission if the animal finally relaxes in the room with you. Acceptance would be leaving the door open and allowing the animal to come and go. And also, like, and it brings up a good point. Sometimes when we go to someone's home to offer Reiki to their animal, lots of times we get friends, clients that want us to do that, to go to their home, that they'll say, oh, I want to keep him in this room, or, oh, he's going to want to wander around. And so they want to keep it. And we can say to them, it's okay for them to roam around. And actually, it's kind of nice because if they roam around and maybe they choose to sit outside the room and accept the Reiki, or maybe they go into their very favorite place in the house and relax and accept Reiki. Because remember, your energy isn't just from me to here, or from you to the animal, or for you to the door of the room. Your energy goes. We aren't sensitive, and we talk about this all the time. We are not sensitive to energy like animals are. Our energy is huge to animals. So if they want to leave the room and go lay down and accept the Reiki, then that's great. That's acceptance because they're accepting it on their terms. So it's not to say that if you were in a locked room and the animal finally accepts, that that's not acceptance, but that's submission first and then possible acceptance. But it's very hard to know if they're accepting because maybe they just go, okay, I'm just going to give in to this. You seem like a nice person. You aren't a threat. So now I'm just going to relax. And I'm going to turn this over to Jamie in a minute. But I wanted to say hi, Gabby. Thanks so much, Gabrielle, for joining us. And hi, Gabby from San Francisco. Thank you. Good to see you.
Hello.
And Olive, thank you so much for joining us. Yay. Hi. So we're talking about submission. So Jamie, I know that you probably have some comments on this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and it is a fine line. It can get a little confusing, but that's what makes us unique. This method you know, as opposed to what's taught in traditional Reiki classes with the hands-on healing approach, right? And why it's so important that we remember that hands-on has to be animal initiated. And you know, the first Reiki class I ever took was human oriented. It was a typical Reiki class. And I had a Jack Russell Terrier who was wild, just typical Jack Russell Terrier. And finally, at like 2 years old, she finally was to the point where she would just be still enough to lay down beside me. And I had just finished this Reiki class and I was so excited because I thought, oh, I can offer her Reiki. So she laid there and her eyes were closing. I thought, this is my chance. And I put my hands on her, started this, you know, Reiki. And she immediately jumped off the couch, went across the room and gave me a dirty look. And so I did everything wrong. But later on, I realized that she would, when I was meditating and, you know, maybe doing a self-treatment, she would get up on the couch at the far end. So it's not that she wasn't accepting Reiki. It was my approach that was totally wrong, where she just went, no, I don't want it. But when she could choose it, she was there. I didn't realize that's what was going on for a long time.
And you hear that story over and over and over. All of us have experienced that when we first learn, like level one, the system, like, right? We want our animals to enjoy it, right? They're our animals. Oh, love this. I had a dog that did the same thing. It's like, no, but when he was sick, he would come and lay up against me. And I think that that's like a really important distinction, right? Is that we want animals to accept it. So when we go inward, our energy goes outward. And now the animal can accept it however they want. We don't have to force it, because our energy is so big that we think it's just like right here in our hands. And we're like, okay, now it's I'm beaming this energy or whatever, but it's not. Your energy is huge. And so if you can just balance yourself and let go of anger, let go of worry, go through the precepts and create that foundational grounding within you, now your energy goes out. It's light, it's comforting, it's inviting. But again, the animal has to take it how they want. I remember when I was working with a really sick cat, and you know, I had just taken level one, but Kathleen is big on acceptance versus submission. And so Minu, the cat, wanted to leave the room. And her person thought, oh, she just doesn't want it. But we just allowed Minu to leave the room. And what she wanted to do is she wanted to go use the cat litter box and get a drink and then come in and accept the Reiki, right? So again, it's like we talked about this last week with the horses. We want things, we're like, here, I've got this great thing for you. You should love it. Why don't you relax? We're going to do this. And the animal's all, wait a second, wait, hold up. I need to get some water. I need to use the restroom. I want to relax. I want to feel comfortable. And so we really have to just not take those initial leaving the room or leaving you as a no. Could be just a not right now and not the way you're offering it. There's a that's okay, Gabby, to have camera off, no worries. And anybody you can put your camera on or off. There's no pressure here. But you know, you hear this a lot in the Reiki world. Oh, my energy was too strong. My energy, I'm too powerful. The animal can't handle my energy, my Reiki energy, because it's so powerful. It's overwhelming. Well, it's overwhelming for sure. But is it so powerful? No, it's not so powerful. It's annoying. Okay, that's what it is. It's like going into a room and you're this really annoying person and everybody starts to leave and you're like, I'm just too much for these people. I'm just too big for these. No, you're too annoying for these people. And that's what we are to animals, right? We're too annoying. So we have to really check ourselves and say, okay, you know, where am I? What am I feeling? And just always focus inward. When we go inward, our energy still goes outward, and we don't have to worry that the animal is laying right next to us. Our ego wants the animal to lay right next to us. Of course, it feels so good when the animal lays right next to us, or when a horse comes up and puts their head right in your chest. There's all these wonderful things that animals will do to show deep acceptance, right? But sometimes when they don't, know you, or maybe they just don't want it, they might take it however they want, which might be in another room or across the pasture. Or maybe if it's like a care, it's a tiger, maybe they just go lay on their perch and they just relax the way they want to. So Lisa, yeah, what would you like to add to that?
Well, this is not adding anything, but I was nodding my head before because that is a question that comes up for me all the time is, what is this? Is this submission or is this real acceptance? And I'm just so thrilled about the topic today. But I don't want to get things off the rails here, but when you mentioned the precepts before, this is a question that has been haunting me for a while, and I've been meaning to ask it. And I'm hoping, I don't, anyway, I'll just ask it. When I do the precepts, I am so overwhelmed by monkey mind. Like I can't even get through the precepts without having being on at least 2 or 3 parallel thought tracks. And is that okay? I mean, I'm still running the precepts in my mind, but I'm thinking about 45 other things at the same time. And I cannot seem to just focus on the precepts. By the time I get to the 3rd one, I'm off.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, for 2 things. So one is we want to make sure if we're going to do the precepts, that's why I always recommend first thing in the morning when you open your eyes, wake up, do them then, because your mind hasn't had a chance and you're still kind of in that subconscious state. So it's really nice to do the precepts, but the precepts also bring up stuff, right? For today only, do not worry. Oh gosh, that reminds me, I've got to pay this, right? So the precepts kind of like go, oh, we're going to direct you over here. So just kind of bring yourself back. You go, yep, that's right. But I'll worry about that in a minute, right? Put that in a box and then go back. And sometimes when we're really stressed, we have to literally, like I've done this. Yeah, I have to start over like 10 times. Oh my God. Okay. For today only, do not anger. Okay. What's that going to bring up for me? All right. Do not worry. Okay. What's that going to bring up for me? Right. So you can just give yourself grace. Also, when we do I actually just found out recently, and this is called the Zen breath. When we're breathing in through our nose, deeply into our belly, and then slowly releasing that breath out our mouth, like we're blowing out a straw, we're actually stimulating our parasympathetic nervous system, but we're also calming our body. It's actually been proven to relax the entire body, and it slows our mind because we're doing it slowly. So sometimes doing that, just taking that slow breath in and the slow breath out will also help with your monkey mind, because when your breath slows, your mind slows. It's like they're tied together. So if we can slow our breath, we can slow our mind. And that's really important too when we're with animals, because we can go and sit with an animal. And this is another reason why you might not get acceptance right away, is that when we go in, like you're saying, Lisa, you've got monkey mind and you're trying to do the precepts, ground you. If your energy is like, blah, 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 like Tasmanian devil, then of course the animal's going to be like, I don't think so. But if we can slow our breath, slow our mind, focus on the precepts as a mantra, maybe you just do one mantra. Maybe you just say, for today only, do not anger, do not anger, do not anger. And then see where your mind goes and see if you can start to kind of heal that, and then go to do not worry, and then go to be humble or be honest, be grateful, whichever version you use, and then show compassion to yourself or others. Whatever version you use, just make sure that you're focusing on that slowness of mind, slowness of breath, because it's hard, when you're stressed or when you're busy, right? You kind of want, like we say, oh, use the precepts when you're really stressed out. Well, then you try and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even get through it because my mind keeps going over here and over there. And that's okay. That's okay. We have to have grace with ourselves. We have to realize, oh, okay, I really am stressed. I've got a lot on my mind. So now I'm just going to really focus on my breath. I'm going to focus on slowing my body, slowing my mind, and remind your ego, I'm going to deal with this in just a minute. I just want to focus on the precepts. So that's a really good question, though, because you might not get acceptance from an animal, not because your mind, that your heart and everything isn't in the right place and you're not trying to force anything, but your own personal energy might be doing too much like this and not enough just peace. So I don't know, Jamie, if you want to add something to that.
Oh, yeah, when we are present with an animal, they sense everything going on with us. So if our energy is scattered, if we're preoccupied with things, if we're angry, whatever it is, those kind of emotions, they will turn away from us oftentimes. And I've had that happen, where I'd been working with an animal all weekend and it was beautiful and always receptive. And then something happened and I was angry and they just wouldn't even come near me, didn't want anything to do with it. So we have to, be aware of what energy we're bringing into the situation as well, if we want
being very mindful of that. And Kelly said that she appreciates asking. So see, this is what I love about this community. We think when we ask a question, we're going off topic or we're going off base or we don't want to ask it, but yet we're always helping each other, because Kelly said, thanks for asking about the precept monkey mind. I needed to hear about it too, and be reminded to offer more grace to myself. And that's so important for us. We have to offer grace to ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves and give ourselves that part of the precepts, right? Show compassion to yourself, first to yourself and then to others, because we can't truly show compassion to ourselves or to others unless we know how to do it to ourselves. So we like to say, oh gosh, you should take some rest. You should take a nap. You should go get a massage. But we don't say that to ourselves. We don't remind ourselves when we're feeling tapped out that, hey, I need to rejuvenate. I need to restore, right? And just really offering ourselves that same love and compassion that we so freely give to other people and to the animals. So I'm going to, all of you went on unmute. Did you want to share anything?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess in my thinking, because I'm work more with horses than I do with other animals. And in the submission part, I'm kind of wondering what that looks like to everybody else. What does that kind of mean? Some of the horses I work with are not healthy. So of course, how I'm not sure how that works in this. I know what acceptance is because they come over and acknowledge you. They do. But the submission part, I'm not sure. It's not clear to me for some reason. And maybe you guys can add a little bit more to that.
Absolutely. That is such a great question when it comes to horses. So since, oh gosh, it's probably 2011 or 12 at the latest, was Kathleen's first trip to Remus. And so we've been going there since around that time, right? Mostly every year, except for the last 3 years because of COVID and everything. But so at Remus, they have horses that are laminitic. They can't move very fast. They have ponies that are severely laminitic.
Yeah.
And there's also horses that they had the oldest horse in the world. I think Shane died at 54.
Wow.
So there's a lot of older, more geriatric horses that can't move, right? They can't move around, and they can't come and show acceptance in that way, but they also can't show refusal, right? Because some of them are just hobbled.
Yes.
The best thing about that, and this is where we really have to be mindful about that and really have our eyes open and aware to the subtle signs. So there's subtle, very, very subtle signs that animals will give, either that they're not comfortable. Maybe they'll just like shrink back a little, or they'll kind of move their head slightly away from you. That's a sign, And so with horses and with even really ill animals like Minu, the one cat that got really sick, she could barely lift her head. So I was sitting with her on the bed. I sat like about 5 feet away from her, but I could tell she wanted me closer because her head was like shaking and she was leaning towards me. So I came a little closer until she stopped doing that. So you can watch these very, very subtle signs of acceptance from an animal. So with horses, there's very clear signals that they don't want you. We talked about that last week. They will pull their ears back, right? They will cock their back hoof and be like, get back or I'm going to kick. There are those very obvious signs. But when they're ill or they're tired or they're maybe towards the end of their life and they don't have a lot of strength to give you clear signals, then you start looking for the more subtle ones. One time in one of Kathleen's classes, there was a student. So there was Scooby, and I think Scooby was at that time like 38. He was very lame, could barely walk, was in a lot of pain. And so the student, we were standing far away from, there was other ponies and stuff, and it was the laminitic barn. So they were all, pretty lame. And we were standing in a circle away from the horses, and they were all starting to hang their heads, which is a sign of acceptance, right? They hang their heads, they start to yawn, they might stick their tongue out. They just their bodies start to relax. So Scooby was doing that, but this woman started crying during our session, and she went over to him and touched his legs, crying. And so it was really difficult. The other students were watching, Kathleen's watching, and it's like, okay, this isn't good, because Scooby couldn't get her off of him, but he was doing little flicks, like, with his body barely perceptible, but you could tell he was uncomfortable. So Kathleen pulled her aside and then talked to her about that. It's when we go to that place, two things. When we go to that place of their pain, when we start crying, that's not helpful, right? We are adding to that energy of pain and suffering. When we can stay in that light within ourselves, we're offering that elevated feeling of light and love, right? So everything's lighter. So then Scooby could actually relax into that. But the other part was she was so caught up in doing hands-on to try and make him feel better that she forgot to even look at the signs that that's not how he wanted to take it. How he wanted to take it was the way it was being offered, just as a beautiful energy of light and love where he could feel comfortable. He didn't feel, pushed upon or suffocated, like imagine yourself if you're in a bed and you can't move and there's all these people hovering over you. Imagine how claustrophobic that would feel, as opposed to people just standing around you and maybe holding space for you. There's a big difference. So with horses, I think that the big point here is to look, and any animal actually, is to look for those subtle, almost imperceptible movements. Because we talked about last week how a horse will flick, get off me, right? That's how they do a fly, right? They're going to do it in it. But if they're old and they're sick or they're transitioning, they may not be able to do that, especially if they're a downed horse, right? They really they can barely lift their head. So we really have to be respectful of just holding space. We don't need to touch. The need to touch is our own.
Yeah.
The need to be close is our own. Our energy, again, is huge. It's a really hard concept to grasp and understand, but our energy is very big. So if we can just close our eyes and go inward, we're of more help than if we're focusing and open. And in the email this week with the recap of the horses, there's a link to Kathleen's story about the horses at Sacramento, and how when the lady went in there with hands on, the horses told her in no uncertain terms, get out. They chased her out. We never want to put ourselves in a position where we're being chased out, but old and sick animals can't do that. And sometimes our own animals who love us will put up with it. They will, put up with us wanting to be on them. And they might give signs, like subtle signs, like maybe they start panting. Maybe they start just kind of leaning away from you. And really, I think that that's the most obvious, even though it's not very obvious, just that so subtle movement of away. The head is going away from you. The neck is going away from you. Some part of the body is going away from you. That's a sign, whoa, I got to look, move back. But then like with Minu, she was just like 3 pounds, she's shaking, barely lift her head, but she was trying to. And I was like, oh, I've got to get closer. She's trying to get closer to me. So again, look for that too, because you don't want the animals to want you next to them. And yet you're like, oh, I'm just, I was told not to do this, so I'm going to stay here. Just always be mindful of what you're walking into. And, that's what's beautiful about this practice. It doesn't have to be eyes closed. We're really focusing on our breath, on really letting go of that anger and that worry and creating that beautiful loving space. So Kelly says it's a violation to them to allow our ego to control the experience. Right. I love that, Kelly. Thank you. It is a violation to them. Our ego is so powerful. It tells us, hey, it tells us that, oh, we should be doing it this way. We should be doing that way. And I'm really glad you said that, Kelly, because it's a great segue into a video I want to show you all. So I'm going to share a video. I'm going to share my screen. This is a video that actually was pretty famous. Parts of it were pretty famous. They actually made a longer one, which was really interesting to me. So I'm not sure who these people are, and no judgment on these people. They're doing the best with what they know, with what they understand, right? So, I embrace them for wanting to help this wolf and send them love for that. But they did some things that you can tell were not comfortable for the wolf. So I'm going to start the video here. Already you can tell that this is a domesticated wolf that is one of theirs. I think she's the practitioner, but you can tell the wolf is panting. You can see his breath moving, the fur moving. They're holding him. He's not holding him as much. She's got his hand there. She's got her hands around his neck. Okay, that is a very vulnerable position for a dog, any animal around your neck, because when an animal is going to get killed or attacked, they go for the neck, right? So that's a very compromising. So he got up and he moved closer to the man, away from the woman. So now the man's got his hands on the back of the wolf's neck. The wolf is friendly, domesticated, so it's putting up with it. It is submitting and it's panting. That is a sign of distress in dogs, is panting. Usually we offer Reiki to dogs who are panting, right? Because we want them to calm down, but instead the wolf's not calming down. The wolf is like, she's laying across him now. Now he's being forced to submit to this healing. And I'm sure the healing, so he does close his eyes, he does submit, but he's still, can't see it as well here, he's still breathing heavily, but he's closing his eyes. Again, he's domesticated. He will submit at some point, but that's not what we want. It's causing him a lot of distress. I don't know what that was. I don't think he was growling, but he's trying to, you can tell he's trying to get up. He's trying to move away from this. It's too much. And so he goes to where he's more comfortable, right? So they took that as he wanted more. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But again, then they go back to, he yawns there. So this is back. So then they put him on a table. Now, this is the one that was famous for a while, how a wolf got Reiki on a table. You could tell they were forcing him to lay down. And again, he's panting, he's breathing heavily, breathing out his mouth. He's not comfortable. And again, they've got their hands around his neck. So now they're showing, oh, see, he relaxed, but his breath isn't relaxed. His breath is very hard and fast. And so she's talking about how the animal submitted and how it was a really wonderful thing. So that's what they saw. They saw the wolf submit. But when you do this practice and you have the years of experience, or even if you don't have years of experience, and you see this, you can tell almost immediately that is not submission, or that's not acceptance, that's submission. Yeah, it is hard to watch, Wilma. It's hard for people like us who know a better way to watch that. For them and their tribe, their people that they're reaching out to, a lot of people commented, oh, that's so wonderful. The wolf was able to get Reiki, because they don't understand the subtleties of offering Reiki energy, right? If we're forcing it on them, especially if we're holding them by their neck, I mean, can you even imagine how that must have felt to that poor wolf? But again, the wolf loved the people. That's what we have to remember. Our animals love us. A lot of times they will submit, but that doesn't mean they're accepting it. It means they're humoring us. Okay, I'll do it. This feels kind of good. But, and it's hard to say what the wolf got out of that, but you can tell the wolf never really relaxed in that deep way that we see with dogs, where they sigh, their breath goes really slow, they close their eyes, and their body goes completely relaxed. It's not tense. I'm kind of looking, moving, and then you've got someone holding them down, right? That is definitely not acceptance. So I wanted to share that with you. It's an extreme case, but it's really an idea of when we force ourselves on an animal, we can get acceptance, or submission, almost acceptance, but it's not what we want. We want to give them agency. That's what this practice is all about. So Olive says, I'm a massage therapist that was horribly uncomfortable for the animal. And the woman was actually a massage therapist as well, Olive, which is really interesting. But yeah, it's not a great video, but I wanted to show you because there's a huge difference. And when you're talking to other people about what you do, a lot of times the animal Reiki that they are talking about is that kind of animal Reiki. So we have to have a lot of grace and a lot of acceptance with people and accept them for where they are, because the good news is that people are honoring animals and helping support them. The bad news is they may not be doing it exactly right, but they're trying. So if we can share what we do in a loving, open way without judgment, people are more likely to hear what we're saying and understand the difference between what we're doing and what they might be used to doing. If you learn human Reiki and you adapt it to animals, of course, you're going to be focused on your hands. That's your whole, Reiki on, Reiki off, Reiki on, Reiki off. But when they can have a deeper understanding of my entire body, my entire soul and spirit is Reiki, and this is the energy I'm putting out, that's different. Then they realize, wow, I don't need hands. My entire body. So we're going to CARE in October. Kelly and I are going to teach a level 3, and we're really excited because it's going to be in a complete teacher intensive training all day at CARE with the animals. This is the first time we've ever done that, where it's all day with the animals. You cannot go in with Ignosi, the crocodile, and force him into a headlock and hands on. You will not come out alive. You cannot go in with the tigers and do that. And the tigers are friendly, but they would think you're playing and they might bite you and hurt you very fatally. There's things that Gabby, I hope you can go. There are things that we cannot do with wild animals that they were doing with that wolf, right? And so we have to learn how to share our energy, our love, our light with our bodies and not focus on our hands. Even though as humans, we're very tactile, right? We hug, we touch, we feel, we pet our animals, especially like horses. Oh my God, there's nothing better than scratching a horse and having them just like wrap around you. I just love that feeling so much in their smell. But that's our ego, right? That's us needing that love and that touch. But if we can let that go, we actually have a deeper experience, because I'm telling you, and I know Liza can talk about this a little bit, that when you get a crocodile to accept in your energy, that's huge. When you can get a lion or a bear to come sit with you and connect deeply with you, that is huge. And that's what we get at CARE. And I'm so excited to go back and teach people that, because it is the best place to learn, because we have really close access to these wild animals. I mean, you can literally sit next to a tiger and there's only a chain link fence between you and the tiger, and do Reiki. And it's a really amazing experience, but you can't use hands-on, because even though these are friendly tigers, I mean, they're still wild animals. They don't know that you're just putting hands on them, and maybe they don't want it. Can you imagine if an ant like that wolf was really submissive? Can you imagine one of the tigers that CARE not wanting your hands on you? Whack! I mean, claws and all. That would just be really horrible. So we have to honor the way this system, the Let Animals Lead method, because Kathleen was doing hands-on in 2004. So from 1998 to 2004, she was doing what those people were doing, right? She was cross-tying horses. She was forcing hands-on. And she did that until 2006, when she learned the more traditional method of Reiki, which is meditation-based, from Franz Stine, and started doing Reiki that way. So her very first book that she wrote on animal Reiki that was based on hands-on, right? And so it does work sometimes. It probably works effectively 50% of the time, you know, semi-effectively 75% of the time, but there's 25% of the time it doesn't work because you're going to get chased off, you're going to get bit, something bad is going to happen. I know Kathleen said that one time a horse, she kept forcing her and you know, her presence on a horse, and the horse finally, ears pinned back, turned his butt and cocked his leg like, look, lady, I will kick you, get out. And she was like, whoa, okay, I'm getting out. So she started with a very oppressive approach. But since 2006, even though it wasn't officially called the Let Animals Lead Way, it was officially the Let Animals Lead Way, because she then learned to give animals agency. And that's what she's been teaching ever since. And that's what we teach in the Let Animals Lead method. And that's why we call it the Let Animals Lead method, to really call out the difference between our system compared to all the other animal Reiki systems that are out there. So as a student of the Let Animals Lead method, you have a lot to be proud of, because where people are right now with the hands-on, that's where Kathleen was back in 2004. We are so much further evolved from that. So it's not to say that these people who are doing it with hands-on are wrong. They're not. They're just further behind, but they will learn and they will come around. And that's why we always encourage you to share this method in a loving, kind manner, always through the precepts, right? For today only, do not angry. Don't get angry about what they're doing. Don't worry about what they're doing. Be humble in your speech. Be honest about who you are and where you're coming from, and show compassion. And if you do that, then people will listen, because nobody likes to be judged. Can you imagine, like, if somebody said to us, which they have, oh, your way is wrong. Your way isn't good. Your way, you can't do what we do, blah, 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 blah. You know, okay, that's okay. I accept that, but it doesn't feel good to be judged. And people immediately put up a wall when you judge them. So really, we need to be open, kind, and understanding. And also, like Kelly said, showing compassion and grace to ourselves, right? When we mess up, because we will mess up. Our ego will always get involved. My ego still gets involved. I've been doing this since 2007. I still will sit down with an animal, and if that animal doesn't show complete acceptance, like, what am I doing wrong? Like the tigers are funny. Sometimes they'll be all there on their back. Oh, I love you. And then sometimes they're like, yeah, what's up? No, not today, not now. I'm like, no, you love me. But it's a great test of our ego, right? We can let go of our ego. We can let go of this and just be and shine our light. Remember, be the sun, shine your love, shine your light. And that is the most effective way to offer Reiki. So I've been talking a long time. I want to open it up. Jamie, I don't know if you have anything more to say about that, but I want to open it up to all of you as well.
The only thing that, I would add is we need to remember that we are becoming Reiki, and we need to let go of the outcome.
Right.
And if we just let go of the outcome and go inward, we're going to be okay. And the animal will lead us to whatever needs to be done, but let go of the outcome.
That's true, because a lot of times if you do this for a business and you go to someone's house and the animal just like paces and does whatever, blah, 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 and doesn't really seem like they're laying down or relaxing or anything. And then you leave and you find out later, oh, wow, the postman came and the dog didn't bark, and she always barks. So there's ways that they take it. And again, that's what we're letting animals lead. We have to let them accept it however they want to accept it. So would anyone like to share anything? Anyone want to? And I'd love to give someone who hasn't spoken a chance. Yes, hi, Mary Lynn.
Hi there. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I had an experience. Yes, want to say hi? Okay, hi. Off she goes. I had an experience like that yesterday where I was at the shelter, and I was in with two cats, and the one was like all over me right away and sat on my lap the whole time, and kept turning and looking at me every time I had stopped scratching her behind the ears, like, continue, That's what she wanted me to do. So I had one hand back here and my other hand on my leg. And I felt the energy I felt it in me, on, around me. And, but I thought I was still honoring her
Yeah.
wishes, because every time I tried to stop, every time I tried move it, no, she even butt me. So my hand.
Yeah, and I think that's
So-
where an animal's clearly showing you that they want hands on. They're clearly showing you that they want to be touched. That's a huge difference than an animal kind of shrinking away or making like shaking or yawning or doing all those stress signs. For cats, even, cats, I learned this from taking the fear-free class, which so for Sarah members, you can get certified in fear-free for shelters. So in that class, I learned that cats will actually feign sleep. So you think they're relaxing, but they're actually really stressed. So it's something to be aware of when they're caged, right? And you're outside their cage. And if they kind of seem a little not completely relaxed and soft sleep, but more tense, closed eyes, then maybe move back. But yeah, that is a clear sign that the cat wanted to be touched. So thank you so much for sharing that, because that's important to talk about. There will be animals, sometimes dogs will come and they'll plop their butt right in your lap because they want your hands on the sides of their hips. They have hip problems a lot. Sometimes horses will do that, or horses, like back into you or put their side to you or put their head in your chest. Cats will crawl on you. Little animals like mice, gerbils, things like that, they might just come closer to you. They may not want touch, but they want to be close to you and that energy. So it's really just being aware of that. Thank you, Mary Lynn.
Thank you. Yes.
And anyone else want to share? Anyone who hasn't spoken yet? And then we can go to people who already have, who maybe we want to share again, which is totally fine. I'm not sure, Beth or Wilma, Gabby, Mel, if anyone has anything to share about this. Liza, you don't have anything to share?
Yeah, I'll share. A couple weeks ago, I volunteer at a place called Indigo Rescue and Indigo Ranch. I was out at the ranch and they have a bunch of farm animals out there. And most of the time when I go out there, there's no staff available to talk to me about stuff. So I've always just gone out there, and the gal that's the head of all of it, she just knows I'm going, and she gives them a heads up that I'm coming. And so they know that the crazy lady out there, she's just doing her thing. But I've met this woman that's a staff member because I've been going earlier in the day. And so she's there, and I wanted to know all the names of all of the animals because I don't know them. They don't have them all posted. So she took me into where all the birds were, and they have two newer geese that are kind of butt heads. They are a little aggressive, Antonio and Gabriel. And so she took me in there, and I had a bag with me that I keep a tripod for my phone and everything, so I can set that up and I can take pictures or film when I'm out there. And so I had the bag, so I was keeping it around me, and I would just shift it from side to side because they were coming at me. And but she was introducing me to all the chickens and the geese and all the babies in there. And they were, like I said, they were fairly aggressive. And so I'm like, I'm just gonna, now that you've introduced me and I've met all of them and I wrote all their names down so I have it and everything, I'm just gonna go outside of the enclosure. And she left to go do her thing. And so there's actually a picture on my Facebook page, my business Facebook page, of Antonio and Gabriel. I sat on the outside of the enclosure, and they were also very vocal while I was inside. And I had a chair that I borrowed from the barn, and I sat sideways so that I wasn't facing them, and just, created that space and sat there. And they both came right up and were just looking at me and were really quiet, but I wasn't, in their space, right? Like I had been, so that I could go meet them, but getting out of their space and just, being in that space for them and creating that and not forcing anything on them. They were much more receptive.
I love that, because you're coming in and they're like, no, we don't know you. We don't like this. But then as soon as you leave, because again, it's not no to you and what you're offering. It's just no to the way this is all happening. It's yes once you go. Because I remember we were at Care. Remember that one monkey that was really loud, Liza? I think it's like Chubby or something. And so when I went to Care recently, you know, we were offering Reiki and he got really loud and was screaming and banging his pot. But as soon as we went around the corner, he stopped. It was just, I don't want you right here. I'm okay with you around the corner. I don't want to see you. I don't, you know, so we have to honor that. And thank you so much for sharing that, because a lot of times with new animals too, they don't know us, even though we're offering this beautiful thing, they don't know us. So we have to honor their choice and how they want to accept it. And I think that's beautiful that as soon as you went out, they were like, hey, we like this.
Right.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Liza. Gabby, you came on camera. Did you have something to share? Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. Two Gabbies today.
Yeah, I had two Gabbies. I had first Reiki session yesterday with a new pet, and she is 17 years old. And she did exactly what you said in the beginning. She needed to eat, and then she needed to drink, and then she needed to go over to her mom, and then she wanted to be pet a little bit, and then she walked in another room, and I followed her. And luckily, her mom left them because I felt like the petting her was a little distracting. And eventually I sat next to her, just had my hands further apart, and then she turned around, and then she actually totally showed me what she wanted to do. So I had both hands like close to her ears, and she totally looked at me. And so that's, and I chanted to her. I really felt like she wanted to be chanted to. And there's a dog also, he was rolling around on the floor, so it was really beautiful. And then when the session was over, I went into the other room to her mom, and then we both returned, and it was the cutest thing. She was just inching forward a little bit further to where I sat and was still kind of bathing in that energy. So
oh my
sweet.
gosh, Gabby, I love that. So it's exactly what we just shared.
Absolutely.
How, you know, she's an older dog. She's nearing
Older
the
cat.
end of her life, doesn't have that strength, but yet she showed you those little teeny signs.
Mhm.
That's what I want. And I love that you chanted, because, you know, chanting isn't this magical thing, but what it does is it helps our energy, right? It helps us with our monkey mind. It helps us really just cultivate that nice, beautiful energy within us. And that's so healing and supportive. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Gabby. I love
Oh,
that.
sure. Great
So,
session.
thank you. So Mel, you have your hand up. Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Oh. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I haven't had a chance to join a meeting in a while.
That's okay. We love having you here.
I've started a new job, so I'm working all week. And I haven't really done too much Reiki with because of since my accident. Because I haven't been able to sit as well as I wanted to, or lay down or stand too much for long. But I have a bumblebee, and he is absolutely amazing. Like he's now passed again because they don't live as long, but he protects my deck. It is the funniest thing. He will literally just fly and fly and fly all day, and then when nighttime comes, he goes away, and then he's back in the morning. Last year he was not he stayed away from me. This year he literally flies right next to my head.
Oh.
And he turns around and he looks at me.
Oh.
It is just so amazing. I love this bumblebee. Last year I told him, I'm like, you need bigger wings, and he came back after he passed. I buried him, and he came back a few weeks later as a bumblebee moth. Now a bumblebee moth has huge wings.
Oh my gosh.
So he got his bigger wings. He came back to visit. But it's so nice that because I just sat there, and like he decided he wants to come closer.
Yeah.
So, you know, I didn't go up to him or get closer to him. He actually came closer to me, and he was, I mean, literally just buzzes next to my head. And I'm like, hi, how are you? And then he gets all excited and he flies around in circles, and then he comes right back and he just like literally like, and then he turns around and he stares at me the whole time. And it's so nice because I'm giving him the space to actually come to me instead of me going over to him. So it is kind of like that, like acceptance that you guys are talking about, where it's like, I'm not trying to push anything. I'm just accepting him and he's accepting me. And we give each other that space to get really close to each other. And it's just, I don't do much Reiki on him because he's happy. He's all happy. But when I do sit outside of my deck and do Reiki, I send it to everyone. And actually, my nighttime Reiki session is literally sending Reiki to every animal in the world. And I just reach out and then I step back from the energy and I just let it go until it reaches all of them. Which is a lot, but
I love
I
that.
mean,
And I
Reiki-
love that, like an insect is a perfect example of we can't really touch, right? We
No.
can't touch. So we have to allow them that agency to come and go and buzz around us. And Mel has an incredible story about a wasp on it's on our Sarah blog if you want to read it. It's such a great story about her journey with this wasp. And again, like that the subtleties of acceptance, the subtleties of, wanting to be touched. It's really beautiful. I have to cut you off, Mel, because we're coming to time, and Gabby has something to say. But thank you so much for coming, and we're so glad to have you back. And we hope, all of us hope you are feeling better, and we'll definitely dedicate this meditation to you. Also, Beth has got some physical problems too. Yeah, we're going to do that at the end here in just a couple minutes. So thank you, Mel. And Gabby, what?
No, it was,
Like
thank
to
you for
share?
sharing that. Sorry, thank you for sharing that video with the wolf. And that brings me back to, I remember the first time I started taking classes with you and asking you why I wanted to learn this kind of Reiki. And because it reminded me, and actually I just opened the video, I'll send it to you, because I was giving Reiki to my animals the way I was taught. Obviously, I was like, oh my God, was I so rude? I was just, right now, I'm like totally stressing about it, but thank goodness the animals were not stressed or anything like that. They're just like spaghetti, but yes, I have my hands and everything. So I'm like, was that wrong? Obviously I don't do that anymore. I just sit and relax, and then I wait for them to come to me. And then but yeah, thank you for sharing that. And now I look at that video. Actually, I have one in my page. I'm like, take it up, take it up, take it up. Like, take it up, take it up. Like, no.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Anyway, but thank you so much.
Because again, though, Gabby, that's a great example of, allowing yourself grace. You were doing what you were taught, what you knew to be true. Just like the people with the wolf, they're doing what they know to be true. They don't know another way, and they haven't experienced a better way. And hopefully they will. We're all evolving. But I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Gabby. I love that. Yeah. Because, we all started in some form of that, like what Jamie was sharing, wanting to put your hands on your animals, especially because when they're our own, we're used to touching them, we're used to petting them, and so we think, oh, I've got this great thing, it's Reiki with hands, because that's what humans, we have to have that, right? We have to have the hands as humans because it makes us feel better to have the hands. Animals, they just don't need it. So thank you so much for sharing that. So really quickly, before I turn it over to Jamie to do a meditation, just a recap. So when we're offering Reiki, just first of all, be mindful of our own energy, right? Do your breathing, do the precepts, maybe do some chanting for yourself, and get your energy into balance. And then when you're with the animal, look for those signs of acceptance and also of non-acceptance, or of just wanting more distance between you and the animal that you might be with. Just like what Liza was saying with the geese, they did not want her in there. But as soon as she went outside their space, right, it's their home, you're coming into their home. Once she was outside in a safe place, then they were more accepting of it. And then also with sick animals, you have to be really mindful of those little imperceptible signals that they might give you, just like the slight movement of the head away from you, but then also be mindful of the signs of acceptance, which would be a slight imperceptible move towards you. Just that little bit with the chin or the head or the neck, you can just feel that strain. And especially with the older animals, you always want to be really mindful because it's harder for them to share with us what is happening. Like what Gabby shared with the older German Shepherd, she could tell that the German Shepherd was open to what she was offering and she was following those signals. So I'm going to, so Mary Lynn says, yesterday I found a small bird dead on my front porch. I buried it in the shade under a tree with a few flowers. Later, when reflecting, I felt it knew I'd act in love. Total humbling. Yes. That's really interesting, Mary Lynn, because that happens a lot. Like when we honor animals, we actually can feel that gratitude. When we honor seeing a dead animal and we bury it and we honor it, there's a lot that goes with this. Kathleen actually has a really wonderful blog story. I think if you Google Kathleen Prasad and then deer story, deer and pregnancy, that would probably come up. And it was when she was pregnant and she saw a deer get hit by a car, but it was a really interesting thing that what happened after where she saw a deer. And it was just a really interesting kind of confirmation that the deer was accepting and honoring her honor of the fact that the deer had been hurt. And so be sure to look that up. But I'm going to turn it over to Jamie now and have her lead us in a meditation.
All right. So everyone, make sure you're in a comfortable position. Take a moment and get your body ready. You want to be relaxed. All right. And let's just begin by releasing some tension. So take a couple of deep breaths in all the way down to the belly, and then exhale out any tension you might be feeling today. Take another deep breath in and exhale out any tension. Now go ahead and bring your hands in Gasso or the prayer position if you like. And set your intention to go inward, to connect with Source, your true self, to hold space for any animal that may be with you or any animal that would like to join you, and for Mel and Beth and anyone else who may be hurting, who needs support. Let's set our intention to hold space for them. Now go ahead and place your hands in your lap if you like. It could be hands up, hands down, whatever's comfortable. And let's begin by doing some deep breathing. Breathe in, pull it all the way down to the hara, that belly button just below your belly button, the energy center. And then exhale out. Now take another deep breath in, pulling it down, and this time visualize a beautiful light in your hara. And as your breath hits it, it ignites this light. And as you exhale, this light travels up your body, illuminating every cell and going out into the space around you. Take another breath in, pull it all the way down to the belly, igniting that light. Just really feel that light grow. And then exhale the light back out into the space around you. Take another slow, deep breath in. Pull it all the way down to the belly, igniting that light. And exhale out this light up through your body, your skin, out into the space around you. Let's do 3 more breaths. Breathe in. Ignite the light and exhale the light back out into the space around you. Breathe in, ignite the light, and exhale back out into the space around you. Breathe in, ignite the light, and exhale out. Now let your breath find a natural rhythm. Notice that every cell in your body is glistening with this beautiful light that resides inside you. You are a being of light. Now place your focus on your heart center and feel your heart center fill with this beautiful light with every breath you take. The center grows larger and larger with light until it can no longer hold it all. And it opens like a flower blooms, and a beautiful stream of light shines out from your heart. It's light of love, light of compassion, light of healing. And just feel this light go outward. And invite any animal, any person, any being that would like to step into the light. Knowing that however they participate is fine, and whoever participates in this moment is perfect. And just hold that light, letting go of the outcome. Just allowing all beings to participate however they choose. And if your mind wanders, just go back to focusing on your breath gently. Don't beat yourself up. Just holding space, creating a space of love and compassion and healing for any being that would like to join you. Now, go ahead and place your hands back in Gasa and give thanks to whoever joined you. However they participated is perfect. And give thanks to yourself for being in a position to allow any being to join you. For just holding space and letting go of the outcome. Give thanks to yourself. Now go ahead and take a deep cleansing breath in, pulling it all the way down to the belly. And as you do, become aware of your body again. Your fingers, your toes, the furniture you're sitting in. Just become aware of being back in this reality. And when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes.
Thank you so much, Jamie. That was beautiful. And
You,
everyone for joining us. It was wonderful seeing you.
yes.
We're so happy to have new people, and we're so happy to have returning people. And we hope to see you all next week. And, we're we want to hear from you, like what topics you want to talk about. This is a really good one, submission. Next, I had one thought of for next week and now it's totally escaping me. But if there's something you want to talk about, just like what Lisa was saying about the precepts, about what do we do when our mind wanders? How can we bring our mind back easily? Any kind of topics like that, please email us and let us know, and we will make a whole meeting around it. All right. So thank you all so much. Have a beautiful day, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.